Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, my favorite all-in-one website platform for artists and small businesses. Hello, welcome back to my bookbinding studio. I recently asked you all what you were struggling with when it comes to making case-bound books, and it seems like the top two problems are text block sewing tension and gluing the end papers to the case. Today I'm going to address those specific issues with some demos, and then I'll share more tips and tricks for your hardcover case-bound books. I'm going to demonstrate how to sew neat and tidy book blocks with good sewing tension. I have my signatures here. They've been pressed for several hours, which makes sure that the folds stay compact, and the holes have been punched into them as well. So before I sew, I will jog the text block to the head and just at a glance make sure that the holes are exactly aligned along the spine. This is really going to help with the sewing process, and it prevents the signatures from being misaligned at the top and bottom edges. I have two signatures already sewn here, so adding the third signature. While I'm sewing, my non-dominant hand is always pressing the signature along the spine so that the spine stays compressed and it's easier to get your sewing tension nice and taut. I'm not worried about getting the tension right through the French links, so I'm going to finish the signature, and then at this point, as I'm pressing the signature down along the spine, I'm going to pull the thread this way, and I'm watching the French links kind of lift and tighten up. I just need to do one pull really, and it's going to relax, which is fine because you don't want the tension to be too tight. So I'm going to do my kettle, and then when I do my kettle, for every kettle stitch that I do, I make sure that I'm tying them with the same amount of tension, with a consistent tension. So I just kind of pull once and then pull once more to tighten that. You don't want to tighten the kettle stitches too much. While you're sewing, another thing to look out for is that all the folds of the signatures are lined up along the spine. So something you can do is use a square like this and just kind of like push the folds against this to make sure that it's square. I never use this while I'm sewing. I just kind of use it after the text block is done. But that is an option for you. So remember to keep the signatures compressed while you do this. So that's basically what I do. I adjust the tension at the end of every signature, and then you lock it off with the kettle stitch. If you're sewing a bigger book or the pages are quite delicate, pulling the working thread this way might damage the papers or tear the holes. So what you can do is pull the stitches on the inside all the way to the end and then finish off. When I'm finished, I'll jog the book block to the top and to the spine. When the book block is relaxed, all the signatures should be lined up squarely along the spine. If your spine is caving in like that, it means that your kettle stitches are too tight. And then I was noticing that my kettle stitch here is looser than the rest because there's a big gap here when I try to spread out the signatures. So it's not going to affect the book in the end, but it is best practice to try to be as consistent as possible because this becomes a weak point in the spine. Thank you kindly to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let me show you how easy it is to start a website. After I let them know what I want to do with the website, I'm going to try the Blueprint AI method. These options are so simple, and I like being able to choose the personality, a starting color palette, and a font. The left navigation bar is where you'll find everything you need to set up your shop and other pages, and the edit button up top is where you can change the design with drag and drop. I love that Squarespace is sophisticated and easy to use. You can try Squarespace for free, and when you're ready to launch, get 10% off through my link, squarespace.com/bittermelon. Let's talk about gluing end papers. It seems like a lot of you struggle with it because I've seen a lot of crying emojis, and so hopefully these tips help you. First of all, I recommend going heavier weight with your papers. So this is a hand-bound copy of Handmade Books at Home, and this is probably my favorite weight of paper to work with. It's a Japanese paper called Mingei Chiri, and it's 100 GSM. This is a bit thicker. It's 160 GSM. This is the Canson Mi Taint paper. And then at the American Academy of Bookbinding, we used the Hanamulle Bugra paper, which is 130 GSM. So I like papers that are within the 90 to 130 GSM range. This 160 GSM paper feels like a lightweight cardstock, and it's just so much easier to use. If you're dealing with issues like wrinkling, bubbling, stretching, it's because the paper is responding to moisture in the glue. And so when you glue thicker paper, heavier weight paper, it doesn't stretch as much. So you're not going to come across those issues as often. So start with heavier weight papers and then go thinner. I say this in the tutorial, but really pay attention to the cover overhang spacing. Bookbinders call these the squares. They don't have to be equal between the top and bottom edges and the foredge. They just have to look aesthetically pleasing to you. Even though I use 2 to 3 millimeters as a standard, every book has a different style, so you have to decide for yourself what looks good. So as you're paying attention to the overhang, really press the text block snug against the spine here. So don't worry about measuring, trust your eye. Your goal is to case in the text block to exactly how it looks like here with the dry fit. So if you get all your squares right, your spine is going to be snug against this. So while you're casing in, just worry about your squares and the cover overhang, and your spine should be snug. All right, I have my waste sheets and moisture barriers ready, and I have my PVA mix with a big brush. A subscriber, Amanda, commented on my recent video suggesting using tape as a guideline for casing in. So I haven't tried it yet, and I'm gonna try it in this video to see if it works for me. So I'm just using blue tape here, and the text block is where I want it, so I'm just going to tape along there. Here we go. So I've been using the squeeze bottle with PVA for a really long time, but lately I've been using PVA mixed with methyl cellulose in a glass jar. I would really recommend this method, dipping a brush into a glue container rather than using the squeeze bottle method, because it's just easier to control the amount of glue you use, because using too much glue is can be challenging. to work with, and yeah, I'm getting focused on this now, so I lost my train of thought. Okay, so that was really quick with this big round brush. All right, so let's put it up against the tape. I'm just checking side to side that it's even. I'm lining it up right against the tape there. My concern is sometimes the paper can grow with the moisture from the glue, so I put it right up against there. Hopefully it'll line up. All right, so because this paper is 100 GSM, it immediately went down smoothly without any bubbling, and the surface is still delicate, so I'm gonna put my moisture barrier in. Sometimes I'll do this, I'll close it up and just press it down. And then I'll use my bone folder to just kind of press it up against the spine side. Okay, so it seems like the tape made that really easy. Okay, that's kind of brilliant. Thank you, Amanda. Let's hope the other side lines up. All right, so this moisture barrier is definitely too big, but I'm going to do the same thing. Tape the other side. So what I was saying before is the paper can grow towards the foredge when it's wet. So, but sometimes with thicker paper, it's not even that noticeable. That's the other advantage. So I put the tape right against the edge there. Make sure your glue layer is really light, because sometimes I see bookbinders use way too much glue, and that means when you press the book, it's going to squeeze out and then get on parts of the book that you don't want. So just a light layer until everything is covered. Obviously no dry spots. This is kind of nice because it takes the guesswork out of it. So I was starting to see a little bit of wrinkling here. I'm just gonna press the spine back and smooth it out. All right, and then when I set it down, I just kind of encourage the spine board to really line up with the text block. Okay, and then at this stage, I kind of like really push the text block again towards the spine just to make sure all along. And be careful because, you know, paper is vulnerable when it's wet. And then I'm going to take off the tape. So the spine is nice and snug here. The squares look really good all around. Honestly, the tape really helped make sure that the foredge is square, because sometimes it's a little bit off. And it's snug on the other side as well. This is my new beautiful, gorgeous, stunning nipping press from the Friday Forge. This bowing is totally normal. The end papers, when they dry, it's going to pull the bowing cover back in, and it's going to straighten out in the press. Getting better at bookbinding is all about practice. So if you can, make the same case-bound book repeatedly. So that means with the same measurements and the same materials so that you can review each one and feel more confident as you make more. To get the right sewing tension, you really need to build muscle memory through practice. And for the end papers, it definitely took me a while to get the hang of it. I needed to go through the motions of gluing end papers repeatedly for me to feel more confident. So keep trying even if it feels scary. Sorry to give you boring advice, but it really comes down to practice and repetition. This is not the end of the video. I'm going to leave you with a checklist that you can go through as you're reviewing your case binding projects. Basically things to look out for so that you can improve on your next book. An essential checklist for more professional quality books. Are the edges and corners square? It can be tricky to make square cuts. Try to find a quality metal square ruler or use a square ruler in combination with a straight edge for cutting. Prioritize all the lines and corners that meet the spine. Are the size and thickness of the covers proportional to the size and thickness of the book block? This depends on the design you're going for. For example, you may choose a thinner board for a small book or use a thinner board for the spine versus the cover boards. Are the covers sitting flat even after pressing? Make sure the paper grain of all materials is parallel to the spine. Humidity and moisture causes paper to expand and warp. When materials are glued together, the thinner material, such as decorative paper and book cloth, has a pulling effect on the thicker material, the book board. Test different materials to find a balance of pulling force on both sides of the board. Line the boards with a light cardstock paper if needed. Is the spine width of the case and the book block level with the foredge? Minimizing spine swell will help with the book's functioning and longevity. Is the cover overhang at the head, tail, and foredge square and look proportional for the design of the book? When opening and closing the book, does it open smoothly? If it opens too loosely or stiffly, review your book block to ensure the spine is square and well supported. Assess the book block's spine movement before casing in. Perhaps it's a result of the case construction and the casing in process. Experiment with different spine board and hinge gap widths, a millimeter at a time. The choice of cover materials can also impact the hinge movement. Are the end papers smoothly and squarely attached? Paper expands and stretches when it's moist, which makes casing in tricky. If you're having trouble, use a heavier weight end paper to minimize chances of wrinkling. Are there any signs of overgluing or undergluing? Any surfaces that are not smooth could be a sign of not using the right amount of glue. Use an appropriate sized brush and dip glue from a container to have more control. I hope this video was helpful for you. I always appreciate it when you share your experiences and questions with me. Happy bookbinding!